When winter takes over these home oak and cork oak forests, it transforms them into a landscape with a mineral face. Life seems to be buried under the frost of dawn. However, it is not at all like that. Even in the harshest part of winter, new lives make their way into this unique natural space that is only found in the west and south of the Iberian Peninsula. These first minutes of life are crucial. They must get on their feet as soon as possible to avoid parting from their mother and drink her colostrum, the first milk which is rich in antibodies and will stimulate their immune system. Frost is the rather big enemy now. Mothers hasten to remove all the birth liquid from their body to prevent them from freezing and dying of cold. Other companions do not hesitate to help in this crucial task, which at the same time provides the lamb with warmth and stimulates its breathing. Each of these newcomers is a symbol of the vital energy emanating from this environment, a force that not even the harshest season can stop. In winter, it is cold here, and it is harder to get food. However, there are those who do not hesitate to face a dangerous and difficult journey of thousands of kilometers to spend the hardest months of the year here. And they do it by tens of thousands. From the northern end of Europe, common cranes cross the entire continent until they reach the Iberian Peninsula for wintering, specifically to these southern forests, where more than 50% of these migratory birds land. It is their winter paradise, an environment that is more than welcoming if compared with the atrocious frozen inferno of the territory where these couples raise their chicks during spring and summer. Cranes spend the day in search of food. In the stubble of the near-cultivated lands they find cereals. And in the shades of home oaks and cork oaks, they enjoy a varied diet that includes acorns. They are among the few animals that remove the husk from this fruit before eating it. It is a learned skill, as there are no acorns in their breeding places. Therefore, adults should teach this to the younger ones. Cranes find in this domesticated forest a generous natural environment that has barely any predators. Like them, a great variety of domestic and wild animals coexist in this ecosystem with a wealth of natural life that is scarce in the European continent. And it is also remarkable because human beings are not a threat to them, but just another collaborator in their creation and maintenance over time due to a sustainable use of their resources. Winters can be very imaginative when imposing their power. Thus, it can cover the plain with frost and bury mountain ranges and cliffs under a dense mantle of moist, icy fog. These inaccessible rocks welcome the great lords of the skies. The black vulture, a threatened species that has found here a propitious place for its survival. It shares these perches with their very abundant cousins, the griffon vultures. They wait for the fog to clear so they can go out and explore their territory in search of food. It must have been another hard night enduring the cold and dampness as its plumage is completely soaked. While they wait for the arrival of the thermal currents that help them to fly, they try to dry out, taking advantage of the light breeze that slips through the rocks. Cliff edges like these are the preferred places of griffon vultures to rest and nest in a group. It is also in a group that they will sail the skies for hours and miles in search of food, aided by their extraordinary eyesight. Here below, the fog remains so dense that it erases the landscape. It covers everything with a damp mantle that pearls rock roses, myrtles, heather and other shrubs that grow under the protection of holm oaks and cork oaks, the plant monarchs of this ecosystem. The fog also has the ability to make visible architectures that are remnants of a bustling miniature life that is now hidden, waiting for spring to return. The best Montanera days are increasingly distant in the memory of Iberian pigs. Happy days when the herds found their beloved acorns without difficulty, which provided their meat with unique qualities. As it has occurred in these regions of the south of the continent since Roman times, and maybe even before, with the beginning of autumn begins the Montanera period. This is the period of time used by them to explore the territory in total freedom, a name given by those who own this breed of pigs, which can only be found in the Iberian Peninsula. Now, in the middle of winter, they find it increasingly difficult to find acorns in their daily kilometre-long journeys. Like common cranes, these pigs are able to peel the fruits of home oaks, cork oaks and gall oaks to eat only their energetic meat. Nights are icy, ice growing and spreading everywhere. However, its empire is threatened as its enemy, the sun, rises in the horizon. Soon, a silent but merciless battle will be decided between them. More cheerful due to the faint heat of the winter sun, Iberian pigs continue their tireless search for food, a job in which they prove to be quite imaginative. Of course, acorns are their priority, given their sweet taste that they like so much. Each of these animals can eat up to 10 kilos during a Montanera day. But they also enjoy other gifts, like grass and legumes. They will also eat mushrooms or even insects and small invertebrates that they find in their path. Not only do herds find in streams and ponds fed by winter rains a place to quench their thirst, these also offer the possibility of a comforting mud bath before retiring to sleep a more than deserved siesta. Vultures are back at the cliffs where they spend the night. But it is not for resting that they return. In fact, this is the busiest time of year for these great raptors. It is a time of love. After a courtship that takes place in the sky, couples spend much time together in the nest, grooming their plumage and giving free vent to their passion. They find branches and other materials such as leaves and even aromatic plants to build the nest, which is a task shared by the two partners. But not at the same time. One of them always remains in the nest, perhaps because of the fondness of griffon vultures to steal materials from nests of other nearby couples. The shepherd has the most intelligent and tireless help to guide the flock through this plant ocean: his dogs. Merino sheep herds, such as this one, are a symbol of the very origin of this environment. Already before the Middle Ages, cattlemen began to define and defend portions of the primeval forests that they cleared, in order to allocate the space thus obtained to pasture for their domestic animals. Centuries later, the ecosystem is still an example of productivity and environmental balance, of coexistence between human beings and the forest that they have helped to create. With its dim lights and frosty breath, winter days seem to be a sterile parenthesis in nature. However, it is a crucial season for animal and plant life to balance and regain strength. Its rains soak the earth where the seeds, transformed by the cold temperatures, will soon break through. And they are also paramount because they fill channels, aquifers, and wetlands. Some of these ponds will only exist during this season, but they fulfill a decisive mission for their ecosystem. Gadwalls or egrets are some of the many water birds that find in them the perfect environment where to spend their wintering days. But it is in the late evening hours when these water spots become a portentous and exciting show of winged and wildlife. Lapwings are the first to arrive at the pond that they have chosen as a stall where to spend the night safely. These birds and winter are closely linked in folk wisdom. According to this wisdom, to see them coming from their breeding territories in Western and Central Europe is a good winter omen. Hence the common name with which they are known. Lapwings share the pond with other seasonal travellers like northern shovelers, who are tireless food trackers with their peculiar flattened beak. And also with those who have decided not to migrate. More and more white storks no longer travel to Africa in the coldest months. They stay here all year round in their breeding territories. Cranes are the last to reach the night refuge offered by the pond. Like lapwings, they have spent the day feeding on large flocks or family groups, until they are prompted to gather in masses of water when the evening comes. They prefer shallow and clear surroundings to easily discover possible threats. But before going into the water to sleep, cranes take advantage of the last glow of light to continue feeding. Not in vain, the exhausting journey they are about to take back to their breeding places at the end of winter will take up all the energy they are able to accumulate now. The watercourses, the liquid column on which all these biodiversity is held, offer at this time of year an abundance that is, in a certain way, a mirage. The Mediterranean climate in which it develops tends to be greedy with rain and very generous with warm and drought periods. Hence, every drop of rain that winter brings is treasured as a vital gift for later. Calm waters are the preferred hunting place by common water striders. They move forward on the surface, defying gravity, helped by the hairs that they have on their two pairs of back legs. With them, they create a surface tension that keeps them afloat. The front pair of legs, which are shorter, are used to capture the insects they feed on. The natterjack toad also seeks shallow and calm waters, as this is the most ideal place to breed. These gelatinous strings of fertilized eggs at rest in the bottom of the pond are the culmination of the feverish reproductive activity that has taken place here. Incited by the winter rains, these amphibians rush to approach water spots like these to find a partner. Rows of eggs prove that some have been lucky, while others still await in the pond, hoping to find some luck. For the new generation of natterjack toads, now everything depends on the sky. If it does not rain and temperatures rise, the pond could dry up, which would kill them even before they were born. Wild cattle are closely linked from their very origin to this unique ecosystem located in southern Europe. The human hand that cleared the original Mediterranean forest to create this environment of large pastures and large trees was also the hand that forged this bovine race through a selection guided by the search of bravery. Just like another inhabitant, the herds roam free in these vast spaces. Cowboys limit their contact with animals to what is strictly necessary to care for their good condition, thus preserving their aggressive temperament. When they must work with them, their horses are their best allies when cowboys are faced with situations that may entail some danger. The rider is a cowboy, and so should his mount be when dealing with wild cattle in the open field. Nobility, intelligence, courage, and ability to work define a good country horse. flock of vultures flying in a circle is unequivocal proof that there is food for them on the ground. Winter in the south also tends to be harsh for inhabitants who are weak, ill, or too old to endure its impact. The corpse of a cow becomes the promise of a genuine feast for this increasingly nourished group of griffon vultures. They feed on it respecting a hierarchy, where the older ones are the first to eat, while the younger ones await close by in the hope that there will be something left for them. Scavengers, including these large vultures and the tiny insects that haunt the remains, perform an essential work for the ecosystem by eliminating corpses that could become sources of illnesses for other animals. The cycle of nature does not stop. While some die, others savour their first breath of air. These tadpoles have been lucky. The sun has not dried the pond where their parents deposited the eggs they have come out of. But many other dangers threaten them. Once the kingfisher has chosen its prey, it rarely fails. And this pond brimming with young life is the perfect place to prove their ability. However, it is not advisable for them to lower their guard if they do not want to become the prey. Once the danger has passed, the kingfisher returns to its watch position tasks. As soon as it has chosen its goal, it will not hesitate to submerge to catch it, the whole of its body becoming a lethal harpoon. Again, it lives up to its fame and catches a prey. However, the thrill of triumph can be so ephemeral even for the infallible kingfisher. These water masses attract many predators who are eager to take advantage of the abundance of food that is offered during these longer, warmer days that herald the end of winter. Common egrets and kingfishers have in common a long beak with which they catch their prey, and the patience to stalk them from the shore. However, Everyone in the pond seems quite convinced that this common egret is not about to snatch the kingfisher's title of champion. Perseverance is often the only resource of the less skilled when it comes to bringing a bite to one's peak. Large cormorants alternate individual fishing with an effective teamwork technique for finding food. They form groups that advance on the surface, harassing the fish, that flee frightened and betray their presence. Large cormorants are able to dive deep and chase their prey for many seconds, which they ingest once they are on the surface. Their favorite catches are usually medium-sized fish. Their constant underwater activity obliges cormorants to leave fishing and go to the shore to dry themselves. It is because, unlike most water birds, their plumage is not completely waterproof, which, on the other hand, facilitates their dives. Large cormorants were once birds that only came to the Iberian Peninsula in winter. However, more and more colonies live here permanently. They do so mainly in the large interior water masses, like those that abound in this part of the Iberian Peninsula. White storks that, like cormorants, have stayed here during winter that is now near its end, are uniting with those who return from their wintering territories in Africa. Both gather near the water where they find abundant food. They also share one of the most powerful stimuli of nature: procreation. White storks are monogamous, their partner is for life. They are also usually faithful to the nest that they have built together, which they repair year after year. They also look for great city and town buildings to place them. In the country, they occupy large trees that can support their enormous weight and protect them from potential predators. The air is filled with their croaking, the peculiar and vigorous sound they emit when they clash their beaks. They accompany these with sudden neck movements, which is their way of greeting, recognizing, and enliving the bonds of the couple. After the encounter, the male and the female fly to their nest to culminate the zeal. Winter lilies dare to challenge their own name. They know they are doomed to disappear, but winter could still hit them with a frost. That is lethal for their spectacular flowering. The fields are filled with these white, blue or purple flowers which can only be found in the Mediterranean basin. Winter lilies are just one of the thousands of botanical species that grow in this ecosystem, which make it a unique example in Europe of both plant and animal biodiversity. The proliferation of small life further evidences that winter is close to an end. Each has followed a strategy to survive the cold months, taking refuge under the earth with its brothers, migrating or sleeping. Common scorpions hibernate, and returning to activity after remaining motionless for such a long time is proving to be somewhat cumbersome. It has night habits, so the light and the warm heat of dawn prompts them to return to the safety of their shelter. A path that can bring disturbing encounters. The gecko can consider itself fortunate to have escaped the venomous scorpion sting. The squawking of cranes is still one of the most heard soundtracks during these winter months, but something new is happening in their behavior. They still move in large flocks searching for food. When they have found it, couples with litter usually move away from the rest of the group, but without losing visual and sound contact. As they have done during all these months, parents must alternate their feeding with the surveillance of their children to avoid threats or being disturbed by other cranes. These longer winter days is an advantage for cranes, as it allows them to spend more time feeding and gathering energy for the enormous journey they are about to start. They are all feeling the drive that will encourage them to leave to their breeding territories on the other end of the European continent. But before that, couples will reinforce a lifelong union here with their unique nuptial dances. Everything is ready now. The great adventure is about to begin. Cranes ride the skies that have welcomed them these last few months one last time. When they do it again, they will bring with them a new generation to discover their winter paradise. The trumpeting of cranes goes out, but this tame forest does not remain dumb at all. Another boisterous sound takes possession of its nights. It is an aquatic music that comes from the calm waters where frogs are called for love. Iberian water frog males swell their vocal sacs next to the corners of their mouths to emit the sounds with which they try to attract females. And they can be very persistent because these choruses will be heard for weeks and even months. Male specimens of these species, which can only be found in Spain, Portugal and southern France, are smaller than females. But their front legs are more robust, and this will be very useful when they achieve approaching females, as they embrace them for mating. Stripeless tree frogs and Iberian water frogs share pond and passion to find a female and mark their territory. but southern ones use a single vocal sac placed under the mouth to emit their song. The deafening choruses of common and southern frogs are a chant to the new life that is to come with the end of another winter in the south, to the spring that is already calling with unstoppable strength. Soon, these forests and grasslands of southern Europe will overflow again with a burst of spring vitality that will confirm this unique ecosystem as a protégé of biodiversity and coexistence between species.